Ma'am, this section is for first-class passengers only. Please move to the back where you belong. The words cut through the cabin like a blade. Every head in row 2 turned toward the confrontation. At the center stood a 48-year-old black woman, medium height, graceful posture, deep brown skin, long black hair tied neatly in a bun, wearing a simple navy blue dress with pearl earrings. Her rolling suitcase rested quietly at her side. Boarding pass clutched between calm fingers. Towering over her was a 33-year-old white flight attendant. Sharp cheekbones, pale skin, blonde hair in a tight bun, Navy Airline uniform pressed to perfection, silver wings pinned at the chest. Her lips curled into a smirk as she tilted her chin toward the woman. Passengers shifted in their plush seats. Some smirked, others raised phones, ready to capture drama. A businessman in a tailored suit whispered, "Finally, someone is keeping standards." An older woman in pearls clutched her handbag tighter, nodding in agreement. The black woman's name was Angela Carter. She remained still, her dark eyes steady, her expression calm. She extended her boarding pass without a word. The flight attendant, Emily Parker, snatched it like contraband. She held it up to the light theatrically, as if the paper itself might confess to fraud. Then, with a deliberate flick, she slapped it back into Angela's chest. The sound echoed in the cabin louder than it should have. "Nice try," Emily said, her voice dripping with contempt. "You people always come up with some trick. This cabin is not charity." Gasps rippled, followed by a few hushed chuckles. Phones rose higher. Someone muttered, "She doesn't even look like she belongs here." Angela adjusted her grip on the boarding pass, her pearl earrings catching the cabin light. She didn't shout. She didn't flinch. She simply slid into her assigned seat, 2A, first-class window, with a composure that unsettled those who expected tears. Emily hovered above her, voice growing louder for the audience she thought she owned. "Ma'am, I don't know how you got this ticket, but if you don't move, I'll have to involve the captain. We can't delay departure for someone who doesn't understand the rules." Angela looked out the window briefly, the runway stretching, under a golden sunrise. Then she turned back, her voice low but carrying, "I know the rules better than you think." Emily scoffed, straightening her pressed navy jacket, silver wings gleaming. She turned to the cabin. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the disturbance. Some passengers don't understand proper etiquette. We'll have her removed shortly." Passengers murmured approval. A man in 3C whispered, "About time someone put people like her in their place." Angela clasped her hands gently in her lap, pearl earrings glinting as she lowered her gaze. Her calmness wasn't weakness. It was something deeper. Something waiting. Emily pulled her radio from her waistband, pressing the button like she was summoning reinforcements. "Captain, we've got a disruptive passenger in first class. I'm requesting immediate removal before pushback." Static crackled back. "Copy that. Security will meet you at the gate." The businessman in 1B smirked. "Good riddance." But a few seats back, a college student filming whispered into her phone camera, "This is insane. She's literally sitting in the right seat. She looks way too calm." "Something's up." Angela smoothed her navy blue dress, crossing one leg over the other with deliberate poise. Her wedding ring, a band of gold with a single diamond, caught the light as she rested her hand on the armrest. Emily leaned closer, her voice dripping with venom. "Enjoy the attention while it lasts, honey. In 5 minutes, you'll be back where you belong." Angela finally met her eyes. For a split second, Emily froze. There was something in that gaze, not anger, not fear, but a quiet authority that didn't match the pearls or the plain dress. It was the look of someone who knew exactly how this would end. And Emily, though she didn't know why, suddenly felt less certain than she had 5 minutes ago. The hum of the jet engines filled the cabin as boarding neared completion. Luggage bins snapped shut overhead, passengers shifted in their plush leather seats, and the weight of anticipation pressed against the air like a storm cloud. At the center of it all sat Angela Carter, 48 years old, medium height, elegant. Posture, deep brown skin, long black hair tied in a bun, wearing a simple navy blue dress with pearl earrings and a gold wedding band. She gazed out of the oval window as though none of the stares, whispers, or recording phones mattered. But across the aisle, Emily Parker, 33 years old, white, sharp cheekbones, pale skin, blonde hair pulled into a tight bun, navy airline uniform, pressed stiff with silver wings pinned to her chest, seethed. The veins in her neck tightened as she clutched the cabin radio. Every word she had spat toward Angela still echoed. "This section isn't for people like you." Passengers leaned in, their curiosity sharpened into cruelty. A man in seat 3C, mid-40s, stocky build, graying hair, wearing an expensive tailored suit and gold cufflinks, muttered loudly enough for those around him to hear, "First class is meant for standards, not charity cases who sneak in." His wife, a blonde woman in her early 40s with diamond earrings and a silk scarf, nodded approvingly. Emily straightened, speaking to the entire first-class cabin. "Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be resolving this quickly. Some passengers don't understand airline policies, but rest assured, your comfort is our priority." The line between professionalism and theatre blurred with every word. Passengers chuckled, emboldened by her confidence. Angela sat still, hands folded in her lap, pearl earrings shimmering under the overhead lights. A faint smile tugged at her, lips not out of amusement but patience, the kind of patience that unnerved those who believed she should have been flustered. Finally, Emily's radio crackled. "Copy. Security team notified. Removal in 5 minutes." Murmurs swelled like a wave. A teenage boy in seat 4A, pale skin, shaggy brown hair, hoodie pulled over his head, leaned forward, whispering to his phone camera. "Yo, this is crazy. She's literally just sitting there. Y'all watching this?" His TikTok live counter ticked upward by the hundreds. Angela glanced sideways, catching his reflection in the phone screen. For a moment, their eyes met. His smirk faltered. She wasn't a woman on the verge of being dragged off. She was something else. Emily snapped her fingers toward Angela. "Ma'am, stand up. You're delaying this flight. Every minute costs the airline thousands." Angela's voice was soft but firm. And yet, rushing costs much more than time. Her words hung heavy, confusing in their calm certainty. Emily flushed red. "Enough games. You're either going back to coach or you're leaving this plane entirely." The businessman in 1B chuckled. "Throw her out. She doesn't belong." The elderly woman in seat 1D, white silver hair in a pearl-studded bun, wearing a cream blazer and pearl necklace, leaned forward. "In my day, mothers knew where their place was. Sitting here like she deserves this. Disgraceful." Angela turned her head slowly, her dark brown eyes settling on the woman. She said nothing, but the silence was louder than any rebuttal. The woman quickly looked away. The tension climbed as the cabin crew gathered at the front. A male flight. Attendant in his late 20s, slim build, black hair neatly combed, light tan skin, navy uniform with silver pin, whispered nervously to Emily, "Are you sure? She hasn't done anything disruptive. She's quiet. Too quiet." Emily shot him a glare sharp enough to cut. "She doesn't belong here. Trust me. People like her always pull stunts." Angela reached into her small leather handbag, pulling out a phone. A text notification flashed briefly on the screen before she locked it. "Merger meeting confirmed. All systems ready." She slid it back inside with graceful precision. Emily snorted. "Calling for backup? Whoever's on the other end won't save you from federal regulations." Angela finally spoke clearly, her voice low but resonant. "You may want to confirm who you're removing before you make a mistake that will follow you long after this flight." The words landed with an odd weight. Several passengers exchanged puzzled glances. The teenage boy in 4A muttered, "She knows something." Emily scoffed theatrically. "Oh, please, you're nobody. You're wasting everyone's time." Angela didn't argue. She smoothed her navy dress, crossed one leg over the other, and tilted her face back toward the window. Her diamond wedding ring caught the overhead light. Emily raised her radio again. "Captain, passenger refuses to comply, requesting immediate removal upon security arrival." The captain's voice replied, stern. "Copy. Ground team notified. 5 minutes." The businessman clapped his hands together once, smirking. Finally, some order. But the boy's live-stream counter had ticked past 1200. "Nah, bro. She's too calm. Watch. She's about to flip the script." Angela adjusted her pearl earrings, her movements deliberate. She whispered, so softly only those closest could hear. "Patience is power," Emily sneered. "We'll see how powerful you feel when you're escorted out in handcuffs." The words stung the air like venom. Phones tilted higher, hungry for spectacle. Angela's lips curved ever so slightly, not into a grin, not into defiance, but into a promise, because she knew something Emily and everyone else didn't. And in less than 5 minutes, the balance of power in that cabin would shatter. The cabin buzzed like a hive. Whispers, smirks, the faint click of phones recording. It all swirled together into a storm of judgment. Angela Carter sat still in her seat 2A, her posture straight, her 48-year-old frame composed, deep brown skin glowing faintly under cabin lights, salt-black hair tied neatly in a bun, navy blue dress flawless against her pearl earrings and diamond ring. She adjusted her wedding band, eyes fixed out the window, as though the runway sunrise mattered more than the insults. At the front, Emily Parker, 33 years old, pale skin, blonde hair pinned in a tight bun, pressed navy airline uniform with silver, wings shining on her chest, sharp cheekbones twisted in superiority, gripped her radio tighter. Her voice was shrill, but loud enough for half the plane to hear. "Captain Williams, we have a passenger in 2A refusing to comply. She doesn't belong in first class and is disrupting the cabin. I request immediate removal." The intercom crackled. "Copy that. I'll be right there." Passengers leaned closer. The businessman in 1B, mid-40s, graying hair, expensive tailored suit, gold cufflinks flashing, whispered to his wife, "Good. Let's finish this circus. People like her always slow things down." The elderly woman in 1D, white hair in a bun, cream blazer and pearl necklace, folded her arms. "Captain will settle this. She'll learn her place." Angela breathed evenly. Not once did her fingers tremble. Her calm made some passengers uncomfortable, like waiting for thunder after lightning. The curtain at the front swept open. Captain Williams, early 50s, white, tall and broad, grey hair under his cap, decorated Navy pilot's uniform with 4 gold stripes on his sleeve, strode down the aisle. His boots struck the floor with authority. 25 years of flying showed in every step. "What's the situation?" His baritone voice filled the cabin. Emily straightened, pride swelling as she gestured toward Angela. "This passenger has presented suspicious documentation and refuses to move to the correct section. She's holding up departure." Angela slowly turned her head, her dark brown eyes steady, pearl earrings glinting under cabin light. Her voice was soft but clear. "My ticket says 2A. I'm seated exactly where I should be." Captain Williams extended his hand. "Let me see it." Angela passed her boarding pass calmly. No hesitation, no trembling. The captain scanned it, his brows furrowed slightly. The gold trim, the embedded code, the first-class assignment, everything appeared legitimate. Still, his years of experience whispered caution. Emily leaned in. "Sir, you know how often people forge these. Look at her. Does she look like someone who belongs here?" Her words slithered through the air. Angela tilted her chin toward Emily. "Be careful. Judgments reveal more about you than about me." A ripple of murmurs swept the cabin. The teenage boy in 4A, pale skin, shaggy brown hair under a hoodie, holding up his phone live streaming, whispered, "Bro, she's not even scared. She's about to flip this whole plane." His viewer count spiked into the thousands. Captain Williams cleared his throat, forcing control. "Ma'am, until security arrives, I need your cooperation. If you'll step into the galley, we'll sort this out discreetly." Angela's hands folded neatly in her lap. "With respect, Captain, I'll remain in the seat I paid for." Gasps. The businessman scoffed. Bold words for someone about to be dragged off. Emily smirked, triumph flashing in her pale blue eyes. The intercom crackled again. "Ground security ready. Standing by." Angela's calm deepened. She adjusted her pearl earrings as if preparing for a meeting rather than an arrest. The captain signaled two plain-clothed air marshals. One, a tall Latino man in his late 30s, with cropped black hair and a muscular frame under a navy jacket. The other, a stocky black man in his 40s, with a shaved head, broad shoulders, and calm eyes. They approached quietly, hands near their belts. "Ma'am," the Latino marshal began, voice careful, "we'll need you to come with us." Angela looked up at them. Her expression wasn't pleading. It wasn't afraid. It was steady, with a hint of something else. Authority. "You may want to confirm my status before you make that move," she said softly. The marshals glanced at each other. Her tone was different, not desperate, not arrogant, but certain. Emily laughed sharply. "Ignore her. She's bluffing." "She's nobody." Angela's lips curved ever so slightly. "Nobody. That's what you'll regret assuming." The cabin buzzed louder. The boys' live stream shot past 3,000 viewers. Comments scrolled, "She's too calm. Something's up. This flight is about to explode." Captain Williams exhaled through his nose, patience thinning. "Ma'am, this is your final chance. Step out peacefully, or I'll authorize a forced removal." Angela's voice was clear. "Then you will be authorizing a mistake your airline cannot afford." The marshal hesitated, lowering his hand from his belt. "Sir, maybe we should check with ground command first. Something's off." Emily's face flushed with anger. "Off? She's a fraud. Look at her. Pearls, plain dress. She doesn't belong." Angela turned her gaze back to the window, the sunlight reflecting on her wedding band. Her calm was unbearable to those expecting tears, and just as the tension reached its breaking point, her phone buzzed. The screen lit with a name that made the marshals freeze. Ethan Carter, Airline CEO. Angela declined the call with one graceful press of her finger. Emily's smirk cracked. Passengers gasped. The teenage boy whispered into his phone, "Holy, did you see that? She's married to the CEO." Angela turned back, her voice soft but cutting through the cabin. "I told you. You don't know who you're dealing with." And for the first time, even Captain Williams felt the ground shift beneath him. The cabin was no longer a place of whispers. It was a stage. Every passenger sat frozen in their leather seats, eyes darting between Angela Carter and the glowing screen of her phone. The name that had flashed there, Ethan Carter, airline CEO, hung in the air like thunder before a storm. Angela, 48 years old, medium height, deep brown skin glowing under cabin lights, long black hair tied neatly in a bun, wearing a navy blue dress with pearl earrings and a diamond wedding band, had declined the call with the same calm she'd shown from the beginning. But calm had now turned into something else. Power. Emily Parker, 33, pale skin, sharp cheekbones, blonde hair pinned in a severe bun, Navy flight attendant's uniform pressed to perfection with silver wings glinting on her chest, felt her throat tighten. Her smirk, once so sharp, flickered like a flame fighting the wind. Passengers buzzed like an audience, realizing the play wasn't going the way they expected. "Wait, did that say CEO?" someone whispered. "No way." "She's bluffing," another muttered, though their voice trembled. The teenage boy in 4A, pale skin, brown shaggy hair under a hoodie, gripped his phone tighter, whispering to his livestream. "Guys, her phone literally said CEO. This isn't fake. We're watching history." His viewer count ticked past 6,000. Captain Williams, 52, White, tall, broad build, grey hair under his cap, navy pilot's uniform decorated with 4 gold sleeve stripes, cleared his throat, trying to force authority back into the room. "Ma'am, that call could have been anyone." Without verification, Angela cut him off with quiet precision. Verification? Very well. She unlocked her phone again, scrolling with deliberate calm. The diamond on her ring caught the light, blinding Emily for a fraction of a second. Then she tapped a contact labeled simply Ethan. The cabin fell utterly silent as the speakerphone clicked on. "Angela, what's happening?" The voice boomed from the phone, deep, steady, commanding. It was a voice that didn't just carry authority, it was authority. Passengers gasped. The businessman in 1B, mid-40s, stocky build, greying hair, gold cufflinks gleaming on his tailored suit, dropped his smug grin instantly. Angela's tone was soft, controlled. "Ethan, I'm being told I don't belong in the seat I paid for. Security has been called." The pause on the other end was dangerous. Then, "Which flight?" "Skylink 237, seat 2A, Angela replied. The cabin erupted in gasps. Skylink was Ethan Carter's empire, a billion-dollar airline known worldwide. The name was synonymous with aviation power. On the other end, Ethan's voice grew cold. "Put me on speaker, now." Angela set the phone gently on her tray table. His voice thundered across the first-class cabin. "This is Ethan Carter, CEO of Skylink Airlines. Every crew member in that cabin will stop what they're doing immediately." Emily's face drained of color. Her lips parted, but no sound came. The marshals exchanged uneasy glances. One of them, the tall Latino officer in his 30s, lowered his hand from his belt. The other, the black officer in his 40s, straightened his back and nodded almost respectfully toward Angela. Captain Williams swallowed hard. "Sir, I wasn't aware." "You weren't aware that you were humiliating my wife in front of a cabin full of passengers?" Ethan snapped. His voice was sharp enough to cut through steel. Phones lifted higher. Passengers who had chuckled minutes before now shrank into their seats, realizing their commentary had been captured forever. Emily tried to speak. "Mr. Carter, sir, with all respect, I didn't know she was—" "You didn't know she was human," Ethan roared. "You slapped her with words. You questioned her dignity. You turned my wife into your spectacle." The elderly woman in 1D, silver hair, cream blazer, pearl necklace, shrank into her seat, her earlier disdain heavy on her shoulders. The businessman in 1B tugged at his collar, sweat forming at his temples. Angela remained silent, her eyes calm, her pearl earrings shimmering under the overhead lights. She let Ethan's words carry the storm. "Every passenger in that cabin is listening to me," Ethan continued, "and let them all hear. Angela Carter is my wife. She is entitled not just to seat 2A, but to the respect you owed her from the second she stepped on board. And when this plane lands, consequences will follow." The murmurs became a tidal wave. "She's his wife? The CEO's wife? Oh my God, Emily's career is over." The teenage boy's live stream spiked to 12,000 viewers. "Y'all, she's literally the CEO's wife. This flight is insane." Angela finally reached forward, pressing mute on the phone for a moment. She looked at Emily, her voice soft but cutting. "Respect isn't granted by uniforms or wings. It's in the way you treat people." Emily's knees weakened. Her polished shoes felt like anchors pulling her down. Angela unmuted the call. Ethan's voice thundered again. "Captain Williams, you'll ground that plane until I say otherwise." "Yes, sir," the captain stammered, his authority crumbling. "And Emily Parker," Ethan said, his tone sharp as a blade. "I'll see you in my office before the day ends. Pray you have something worth saying." Emily's face turned crimson. Sweat prickled her forehead. For the first time, the smirk was gone. Angela lifted the phone, turning off speaker. Her eyes swept the cabin slowly, meeting faces that had sneered at her only minutes earlier. None of them could hold her gaze. She tucked her phone away, folded her hands neatly in her lap, and returned to her window view as though nothing had happened at all. But everyone else knew. Nothing would ever be the same again. The silence in the first-class cabin was heavier than the engines rumbling under the wings. What had begun as whispers and smirks was now a graveyard of regret. Angela Carter sat in seat 2A, her posture as calm and straight as it had been from the very beginning. At 48 years old, with deep brown skin glowing under cabin lights, salt black, hair tied neatly in a bun, pearl earrings brushing her jawline, and a navy blue dress draped elegantly across her frame, she looked every inch the picture of quiet dignity. Her diamond wedding band sparkled as she rested her hand on the armrest, and yet to everyone else in that cabin, she now looked like something far more, the woman who owned their fate. Across the aisle, Emily Parker, 33, pale skin, blonde hair, pulled into a tight bun now fraying at the edges, navy uniform once stiff, now clinging to her trembling frame, stood frozen. The silver wings pinned to her chest no longer gleamed with pride. They weighed on her like chains. Captain Williams, 52, white, tall and broad, decorated Navy pilot's uniform with 4 gold stripes on his sleeves, stood at the front of the cabin, his voice subdued as he spoke into his radio. "Ground control. Captain Williams here. Will be delaying departure for further instruction." Passengers sat stiffly, no longer bold enough to whisper insults. Some looked away in shame. Others stared openly, caught between disbelief and dread. The businessman in 1B, mid-40s, stocky build, greying hair, tailored suit, gold cufflinks, the man who had laughed loudest earlier, was suddenly silent, his fingers twitching nervously against his seatbelt. His wife shifted uncomfortably, her silk scarf trembling at her throat. The elderly woman in 1D, silver hair styled in a bun, cream blazer with a pearl necklace, who had sneered at Angela only minutes before, clutched her handbag tighter, her lips pressed thin. No one dared raise a phone now. Angela tilted her head slightly, finally speaking. Her voice was soft, but every syllable carried across the cabin like a verdict. "Do you know why I stayed calm?" Emily swallowed hard, eyes flicking up, but Angela wasn't looking at her. She was speaking to everyone. "I stayed calm because dignity doesn't shout. It doesn't need to prove itself with noise." True. Dignity is steady, even when the world tries to strip it away. A murmur rippled through the cabin. Angela's eyes found Emily, steady and unwavering. "When you mocked me, you weren't mocking my ticket. You were mocking every person you thought was beneath you." Emily's lips trembled. I didn't—" Angela cut her off with a raised hand. "But here's the truth. No one is beneath respect. Not the cleaner, not the child crying in the aisle, not the person you think doesn't belong. Respect is the price of being human, and today you couldn't afford it." Emily's face flushed crimson. She lowered her eyes, shame flooding her. Pale cheeks. The teenage boy in 4A, pale skin, brown shaggy hair under a hoodie, whispered to his live stream, though his voice shook. "Guys, this is wild. She's teaching everyone. I think she's right." His viewer count had skyrocketed past 20,000. Angela leaned back in her seat, her pearl earrings catching the cabin lights. "This isn't about revenge. It's about change. Every one of you witnessed how quickly assumptions turn into cruelty, and every one of you will remember it." The cabin was silent. Even the engines seemed quieter, as if the plane itself was listening. Then her phone buzzed. Again. She answered this time, lifting it gently to her ear. "Angela?" Ethan Carter's voice thundered even through the small speaker. "Are you safe?" She glanced across the cabin. Emily, trembling, the captain sweating, passengers shifting uneasily in their luxury seats, then back to the window, her reflection steady. "Yes, Ethan, I'm safe," she said softly. "Good," he replied. His voice grew cold. Because everyone else on that flight is not. I'll deal with them when you land." Angela ended the call and slipped the phone back into her handbag. She didn't need to say anything more. Her silence was enough. By the time the plane finally pushed back from the gate, the energy in the cabin had shifted completely. No one dared laugh. No one dared sneer. Eyes stayed low, shame heavy in the air. Angela sat composed, her navy dress smooth, her pearl earrings glinting, her presence unshaken. She had walked into that cabin mocked and underestimated. She would leave it having exposed everyone who believed her powerless. And when the wheels lifted from the runway, the truth followed them into the sky. The woman they had tried to throw out of first class was the one who owned the airline.